Happy Halloween to you, and welcome to HLN and our live coverage of the Michael Jackson trial. Ryan Smith here with Smith and Velez-Mitchell. Not such a good Halloween for Dr. Paul White, maybe a little bit scary for him because he is facing an intense cross-examination from prosecutor David Walgren on every single point of the standard of care and a lot of his opinions.
All tricks, no treats for Dr. Paul White, but there was a huge uproar in the courtroom when Dr. White blurted out something that is not admissible. Let's listen and then we'll analyze.
Well, Conrad Murray certainly purchased propofol, but I understand Mr. Jackson had his own supply as well.
Really?
Correct.
Where is that in the police interview by Conrad Murray?
Well, I had heard that...
Objection.
Okay.
Non-responsive. Where is that in the police interview?
Please. Sustained. The last partial answer stricken.
You keep throwing out these kind of rehearsed lines, I think. My question is, where is that?
Just a moment, please.
Objection, that's argument.
Sustained.
Please.
Ask a proper question. Thank you.
Where in Conrad Murray's statement to the police is that reflected?
I don't have the report in front of me. I reviewed it in February, and as I indicated, I've had two lengthy conversations.
Objection, motion to strike. Would the court admonish the witness?
The objection is sustained. The answer stricken. Disregard, please. May I ask a favor, ladies and gentlemen, if you could just leave us for a few moments, please? Remember the admonishments. Don't get too comfy. I'm just going to ask that you go into the jury room.
Oh, judge had to get that jury out of that room because that was something that was not supposed to be in there. His conversations with Dr. Murray.
Do you think, Beth Karas, you've been watching this trial so carefully from the very beginning, that was orchestrated? In other words, Dr. White wanted to get it in, to use a football analogy. He doesn't care whether he gets thrown out of the game or put on the sidelines. He wants to get that in.
It may have been orchestrated. The truth is that he says he had two lengthy conversations with Conrad Murray. So for him to separate what Conrad Murray told him from what's in the police statement, because he can only rely on the police statement, Conrad Murray's self-serving, helpful to the defense statements cannot come in unless Murray takes a stand. He can't do an end run around getting his statement out there and not being cross-examined when the defense is presenting evidence. The prosecution chose to put a statement in. Some of it was helpful, some harmful, to the police. That's okay. The prosecution chose to do it. But the defense cannot do an end run around putting him on the stand by having this doctor testify to Murray's statements. And he's done it a lot, actually.
Well, here's the thing, especially with that particular statement, right? He's mentioning in open court that that he believed Michael Jackson had his own propofol, makes Michael Jackson look like an addict. That goes out. And when they come back, the judge doesn't say anything to the jury. They just continue. Does the jury, should they have been admonished or at least told to disregard that, or has that bell already been rung, and now does Michael Jackson look like he's addicted?
No, it was stricken. They're not supposed to regard that. However, I mean, they heard it. But what's the evidence of it? What is the evidence of it? You think that if there's propofol at the house, not inside those medical bags, which is where all the propofol was cleaned up.
But this is different. This is saying that Michael Jackson had his own and Conrad Murray walked on the scene and now it's here.
But you get it in. As you say, it's hard to unring a bell now. The jurors hear that on top of all the testimony they've heard about the Demerol and his use of Demerol, on top of all the bottles that they see in the room and the vials. And
why do you believe it?
I'm not saying I believe it. But at a certain point,
we would have heard about it. Believe me, they would have introduced bottles of propofol if they found it. Sherilyn Lee says, oh, he's asking me for it. He's shopping around for somebody to get it for him. He didn't have his own.
I'm not even saying it's true. I'm just saying I think that what was the purpose then? If it's not effective, if there's no proof, what was the purpose of the defense trying to slip that in? Of course it paints a picture.
Conrad Murray is trying to get in stuff that makes him look less culpable.
I think we're agreeing that it makes him, anything they can do to make him look more like an addict and more, in some way, if not legally, in some greater moral compass way, responsible, sharing responsibility for what happened. That's what they're going to do, even if there's no proof.
Let me go out to Attorney John Manuelian. John, join in on this conversation, this idea of Dr. White blurting out the statement that he believed that Michael Jackson had propofol of his own. That was stricken, but obviously now the jury has heard it. Do you think it was on purpose that he tried to get it in? Are they trying to do an end run around Dr. Murray testifying by having somebody like Dr. Paul White talk about what Murray told him?
I don't know if it was on purpose, but it's not good. It looks like the defense is trying to throw in some illegal jabs in this boxing match, and it's not going to favor Dr. Murray. And remember something, everything that Paul White based his opinion on, Walgren got out that it was based on what Murray said. So if Murray lied, then all of the opinions and testimony of White are thrown in the garbage. So I think Walgren's going to come back with that in the closing argument as well.
I thought that this cross-examination was extremely effective when essentially David Walgren, the prosecutor, ridiculed in very people terms, in very easy-to-understand cartoon terms, the scenario that the defense has laid out, that Michael Jackson got up attached to an IV stand and a condom catheter and a urine bag and goes across the room somewhere to grab a syringe and then comes back and self-injects himself and then lies down. And I thought, Beth Karas, the way the prosecution presented it was in layman's terms. It was very effective.
Yes, and that is probably a little window into what we'll see in summation. You know, in his simulation he gave last Friday, he said, you know, he talked about Michael Jackson injecting from the bottle, but clearly that comes from his conversation with Conrad Murray, that Murray put 50 milligrams in a syringe, injected half of it, and left the other half somewhere, you know, nearby. So that's how Michael Jackson put 25 in him. That's new information, too.
Yeah, but it's interesting to hear all this information. And I'll tell you one thing that blew me away about this. The prosecution, this was literally the opening moments of this cross-examination. Folks, I want you to take a listen to this because immediately, I mean, the day had just started, and the prosecution got Dr. Murray to say that, got Dr. White to say that Dr. Murray, his performance with Michael Jackson, the way he took care of him, was below the standard of care right off the bat. Take a look.
Do you agree that there are instances where Dr. Murray deviated from the standard of care in his treatment of Michael Jackson on June 25th, 2009?
Yes, I would.
And would you agree that there are instances where Dr. Murray deviated from the standard of care in the preceding 2 months of treatment as relayed by Dr. Murray in his statement to the police?
Yes, I would.
So, John Manuelian, there it is, right? This is a standard of care case. Is it open and shut now? There's star witness saying, yeah, I believed he was well below the standard of care in a couple of different ways.
Ryan, I thought that Paul White's testimony, especially his admission that he fell below the standard of care, was huge. It was a knockout blow. It was a body jab, you name it, any boxing analogy that you could think about. It was bad for the defense. They got to come back and they got to rehabilitate White. I have no idea how he's going to do it, but he needs to do it because now they can't really defend the abandonment issue. And that, you know, take it either which way. Either Michael Jackson died of acute propofol intoxication or he died from the abandonment, and they already admitted the abandonment. So the defense has got to go now and rehabilitate White or else they're toast.
And one of the things that may signal is a longer trial. And my question is, and we'll discuss this on the opposite side of the break, the longer this trial goes on, is the probability increasing that the jurors are going to check out? Also, is the probability of reasonable doubt increase as more scenarios get thrown into the mix, more possibilities, more confusion? It's a factor, certainly, that we can discuss on the other side of the break. Stay right there.
119 data points. This is what we can